When you are faced with the impossible, where do you turn? Do you dissolve into panic and anxiety, trying to work things out for yourself? Or do you remain cool, calm, collected, and still work it out all by yourself? Does God ever figure in these situations for you? The story in Daniel chapter 2 includes all of the above, and it is instructive to see how Daniel meets King Nebuchadnezzar's impossible demands. The king had an impressive dream that by morning he had forgotten. He thought it so important that he asked all his advisors to tell him what it was all about. When they couldn't, the king decreed that they should all be put to death. And that decree included Daniel and his 3 friends. The difficulty for Nebuchadnezzar is that being king, he was thought to be a son of the gods, and any dream was a specific message from them that he must follow. And to forget what they said was an insult to them, so he could expect severe consequences. The story simply opens with the statement, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. Evidently, it was a recurring dream over a number of nights, but he kept forgetting it by morning. You know how it is, you dream, and you know it was impressive, but when you wake up in the morning to tell someone, you can't recall it, even if your life depended on it. You and I don't have ready access to an army of international experts to explain the sublime and the ridiculous to us, but the Babylonian king did. He had different categories of wise men to select, each for the right occasion. In his desperation, the king called for all of them. Magicians from Egypt, who were brilliant illusionists. Enchanters from Akkad, who told the future by throwing a chicken liver on the ground and seeing what it looked like. Sorcerers, they came from all over the place, and they were really into the occult. And then there were the Chaldeans, who were experts in reading the stars. What is surprising is that the language this chapter is written in changes as soon as the wise men start talking. It switches from Hebrew, which is the language of God's people, to Aramaic, which is the international language of commerce and diplomacy. In other words, this is not just a chapter for God's people to talk about in a corner among themselves, but it is something that needs to be discussed on the world stage, giving all peoples access to it. These sophisticated attempts to avoid connecting with the real God is the crux of this story and a warning for us. The fancy, modern, international, politically correct is not where we will find our answers. When the experts failed to give the king the answers he was after, Daniel asks for the opportunity. And after a late night prayer vigil with his friends, Daniel was shown the same dream as the king, a dream of a great image made of different metals that was eventually smashed to smithereens by a great big rock. So in contrast to the image, which is a symbol of human prowess through history, we have a stone cut from a mountain without human hand. The implication of this is that God did it, and the result is the complete overthrow of all human accomplishment, causing it all to be swept away in the wind like chaff. This is a direct reference to Psalm 1 that describes people individually planted as trees at the side of a freshly dug canal to stabilize its banks and to restore beauty to the desolated landscape. This, in contrast to the wicked who will be blown away like chaff. Their attempt to bank on their own accomplishments fails them miserably. In other words, God's work for us far surpasses puny human attempts to save ourselves from all manner of impossible situations that confront us. So the lesson for us is clear. If we think we're able to face every obstacle that life throws at us and manage it all by our own brilliance, we're in for a rude shock, if we haven't been already. We don't need to be blown away like chaff in the wind at such times. When we face the impossible, God alone can resolve it all. So He needs to be the first port of call, not a desperation measure reserved as the last resort.